Okay, starting up here. This is video number 9, and yeah, we're talking about Bogota and how the FARC has taken over the city. It's very unusual to see that happen. It's an unusual set of circumstances that's led to that. But the lesson is, leave Bogota lightly garrisoned at your own risk, government. We're right in the middle of an assassination operation for the AUC up in Arauca, and here's how assassination works. In a space where you selected terror as your operation, you may eliminate one enemy piece, and that can include an enemy base even though it's guarded by a guerrilla. So ordinarily, during an attack and or an assaults are done by government, attacks by insurgents, you can only eliminate a faction's base if all the guerrillas from that faction in that area have been eliminated. Well, assassination bypasses that, so we are able to smack down the base, and we will retabulate FARC's victory position when all of this is done. So terror in Arauca, put a terror marker. It reduced the opposition to passive opposition, and it removed one of their bases via assassinate. And then down in Guaviare, same sort of thing. Remove the base from assassination, put it back down there on the track, and it's going to put a terror marker on the map. And remember, terror markers in an area aren't terribly hurtful to the FARC, because if they wanted to increase the opposition, they can always do so by terrorizing. Terror markers are mostly a pain for the government. The only time terror is going to really be a nuisance for FARC is if they're in an area where they want to agitate during a propaganda round, but it doesn't happen all that often in my experience. So, this is also going to have another effect for the government. Whenever the FARC the AUC elects to terrorize, there's some blowback for the government. And what's going to happen is government aid is going to be decreased. So I've got my charts open here. I believe it's going to go down by 5 here. Let's see. Whenever the AUC chooses to engage in terror, -3 aid if you terrorize in only one space, -5 if you terrorize in 2 or more spaces during that operation. So since they targeted 2 spaces, aid goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down to 8. There you have it. AUC handing it back to the FARC. So FARC's total opposition on the map right now is 32, and they have 5 bases on the map. So they go down to 37. Ultimately, though, what has to get smacked is Bogota. And that's where the government's going to have to come into play here. They're going to have to step up and do something nasty here. So, what does the government do in a position like this? Looking at the situation at present, the event here, not useful for the government. They need to sweep, they need to do nastiness to. So what I'm thinking is, Jeff, you say train and airlift. Yeah, that's a good idea. The problem is they can't do that with a limited op. They can't do the airlift and train. They could just train in Bogota with the limited op, or do they want to pass and go first on oil spill? That would it would make it unlikely that FARC would execute the event, because FARC would probably want to respond to whatever the government does to Bogota. But I'm thinking a training operation is best there. Voco suggests sweep out of Bucaramanga and Ibagué. Well, since the FARC only has 3 pieces in Bogota, what would be the downside of training and then doing civic action? I mean, this is going to be expensive as all get out, but training and then doing civic actions up to active support. That way, what FARC is limited to do next is, the only thing they can do after that is they could do a terror operation, which would bring it down to passive support, but they wouldn't be able to get it back into their zone. And more importantly, they wouldn't be able to rally there, thus putting the guerrillas underground. What do you guys think? And by the way, I'm inclined to pass on this card, go first on the next one. Government resources are pretty high right now. So I'm saying they're going to pass here, get 3 more resources. That'll put them up to 56. That's pretty high. And we can go ahead and end the faction play. So no one else is eligible on the card, so that ends the card play. And we move on now to oil spill. So Solados is discarded. And here we come to oil spill. Next card is Ayahuasca Tourism, and that's going to be a pro-cartel event. So we're not going to worry about that as the government. We have bigger fish to fry here. Now, do we want to do an op only? It's a good question here. Is there any reason in the world why we should do a special activity here? It's an important consideration because the event is somewhat dangerous. The event here on oil spill is sabotage a pipeline, shift an adjacent department by 1 level toward active opposition. Don't necessarily want FARC triggering that. The one way to squash the event would just to be an op only. I don't really see any special activity that's worth the threat. So let's do op only here. And we're going to train in Bogota, and that's the only place we're going to train because this is going to be an expensive venture. So Bogota, we're going to train, and in order to make this work, we have to have, at the end of this, we have to have control, which means the government has to have more pieces than all the other factions combined. Fortunately, we have 2 police there already. So we're going to go ahead and put, I'm going to say 5 troops, 1 police in there. So here we are. The police in 1 stack, troops in the other. That gives us control. We got enough people there now for control, and now we're going to train. We're going to do civic action along with the train. And Volko makes a point here. It's important to remember the government can train in any city regardless of opposition or support. That's very important to consider here. This is going to be very expensive. Don't get me wrong, but I think it'll help swing things in the government's favor quite a bit. So it costs 3 resources just to train in that 1 space. Now, to do civic action, first of all, it costs 3 resources to remove each terror marker, and you must do that before you can adjust the support or opposition. And so thankfully there's no terror marker in Bogota at this time. So we spend 3 resources to go to passive, 3 more to go to neutral, 3 more to passive support, and 3 more to active support. So that was 3, 6, 9, 12 resources. So that brings us down to 41. So that was very expensive. That was a 15 resource operation. Now here's what that did for us. It didn't expose any guerrillas. It didn't kill any guerrillas. But the FARC may only rally in places where they have opposition or it's neutral. So they cannot rally in Bogota. So what they'll have to do now is they're going to have to do terror operations in order to try to bring support back down to at least neutral, but that's going to be tougher for them to do. And as far as the position, victory position, it's changed entirely. Government support now is up to 56. So we'll adjust that on the track. And bases plus opposition is 16 plus 5, it's 21. So FARC is no longer in a winning position. So on one very expensive swoop, the government has altered things, and it looks like the crisis has been averted. So the government has acted. FARC is now able to do only a limited op on this card. And looking at the next card, Ayahuasca Tourism, they are 3rd eligible on that card. AUC and cartels are going to be in front of them, and they're both going to be eligible on that card. So it's probably not going to be beneficial for FARC to pass here. It would be best for them to go ahead and take that limited op. Now, a limited op is an operation of any kind. You still have to pay resources for it, but it can only target or affect 1 particular location on the map, 1 space. If you're marching, you can only march in 1 space, and so forth. So, and you can't do any special activities with it either. So I'm thinking that probably the best thing here would be for terror operation in Bogota. So it's going to cost 1 resource from FARC. Ideally, they would want to kidnap here, but kidnap is a special action, and they can't do special actions on a limited op. So one guerrilla there goes active. And you go ahead and put a terror marker. Yeah, Mike, you mentioned you can march from multiple spots on a limited op. We actually demonstrated that in one of the videos, maybe 5 or video 6, where FARC was marching on a limited op. You can go to one location from many locations, but the destination on a limited op can only affect one location. Same thing with march, or excuse me, patrol for the government. So that's going to degrade support down to passive support, and that's going to adjust the government's total support down to 48. Anytime Bogota's support opposition, whenever that shifts, it's a pretty big shift whenever it happens at Bogota. So, yeah, this is urban sprawl FARC style. Okay, that will terminate the card. FARC is now going to be ineligible in the next card, so we end the faction play and the card play. So on to ayahuasca. By the way, by the time development is completely done, I'm hoping to be able to accurately pronounce all of these cards. I need to have, there's a lady in my church who knows Spanish fluently, and I need to have her help me know how to pronounce these things. So, ayahuasca tourism. This looks like a good one here for the cartels. In the shaded portion, it says, execute free terror with the faction's guerrillas, 1 per forest. It adds 3 resources per terror marker. Question, Volko. The terror adds 3 resources per terror. To whom does it add? The acting faction? Because the cartels could take this event, but say the AUC or make the AUC actually execute the terror. So say the cartels make the AUC, okay, so the faction executing the terror actually benefits from the resources. Well, that's unfortunate because it would be really lovely for the cartels to make someone like AUC do all the terror and cartels collect the benefits. But, all right, that's not going to help. Okay. Yeah, on that particular card, I'm going to suggest that the word "it" in the second sentence and the shaded portion be that faction. Turn it into that faction adds +3 resources per terror.